Hey everyone, I'm Pastor Jay and welcome to Simple Church Online. Whether you missed last Sunday, you're checking us out for the first time, or maybe even watching out of state, we're so glad that you're a part of our community. And we're praying today that as you watch, God would use this to bless your life. Enjoy the message.
So Pastor Jay led us to the end of Noah's Ark last week. There's a little bit of a gap in there before we get into the Tower of Babel. And so the first thing that I want to note is actually right at the end. It's Genesis 9:1. Then God blessed Noah and his sons and told them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth." Because humanity had been destroyed. The world had been emptied. And whether it was, we talked about the theories of if it's a more localized flood or worldwide flood, we can have that conversation. Regardless, mass destruction had taken place. So Noah, his 3 sons, and their wives were to scatter, to go out and refill the world, be fruitful and multiply. And actually, I don't have time to get into it today, but it's really interesting. There's some stuff out there on like the table of nations and the different ways that they went, like Ham is traditionally attributed to going to Africa, and then Shem and Japheth are more in the Near East and then Europe. It's really interesting if you want to go look some of that stuff up. But I want to introduce you to somebody in Genesis 10. This is the great-grandson of Noah, and his name is Nimrod. Isn't that a fun one? And I think we're going to see that it's no coincidence that the name Nimrod became known as someone who is an idiot. It's also one of Green Day's better albums, if you're interested, back when they were good, in the 1900s. That's right. So Genesis chapter 10, verses 8 through 12. Cush was also the ancestor of Nimrod, who was the first heroic warrior on earth. Since he was the greatest hunter in the world, his name became proverbial. People would say, "This man is like Nimrod, the greatest hunter in the world." He built his kingdom in the land of Babylonia, with the cities of Babylon, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh. From there he expanded his territory to Assyria, building the cities of Nineveh, Rehoboth-ir, Calah, and Rezin, the great city located between Nineveh and Calah. By the way, when there's hard names to pronounce, just rip it and grip it. Nobody knows better. Nobody's the wiser to it. Just say it with confidence. Nobody cares. So this is the great-grandson of Noah. And it's interesting because in Hebrew, the name Nimrod means rebel. So we kind of have from the outset that this guy is maybe not great news. It says that he was the greatest hunter in the world. That's our New Living Translation that we commonly use here. Other translations call this, he was a great hunter before the Lord. And this is one of those moments where we miss, there's like an idiom tucked in there. Like, you say, "I'm so hungry I could eat a horse." You don't actually want to literally eat an entire horse. It's an expression. So there are, in Hebrew, expressions like that. So there's an underlying meaning here. And a commentary that I read talks about how this great hunter before the Lord is like a defiant spirit. Like, I'm so proud of my achievements of being a great hunter. In your face, God. I don't need you. I don't need your way because I can do all this stuff. I can provide for my family and much, much more. So we already sense in this rebel Nimrod a defiant and proud spirit. And then further, this is the first time in the Bible that we hear mention of someone who's setting himself up as like a king. Okay, before this, it had been very family clan driven with, the patriarch as the head of the family making their localized decisions and their moves. Here's this guy who, I'm going to show you a map in a little bit, sets up a really wide spanning kingdom into what would become the Babylonian Empire and even into the Assyrian Empire. So he's setting himself up as this king. He's very proud, and he's the founder of the Babylonian Empire, which whenever you read about Babylon in the Bible, it's not good. They're kind of like the stereotypical enemies of God. Even all the way in Revelation, when he's talking about Babylon the Great is fallen, we probably think that's code for Rome, that the Roman Empire that was in power at that time would get theirs. But it's still using that code because the kids of Israel would know the Bible so well, they know, oh, he's talking about an enemy of God here. And so Babylon always is against God, against his people. It was initially called Babelu, which, by the way, Babel and Babylon are the same place, okay? It's called Babelu, which in that Semitic word means gate of God. And so, again, It's kind of near where we think the Garden of Eden was. We don't know exactly where it was. It was kind of at the convergence of 4 rivers. We know where 2 of them are, the Tigris and the Euphrates. The rest is lost. But maybe they set up in this area that was kind of close to there, called it the Gate of God. Maybe this is this dude Nimrod coming in and be like, hey guys, I've got a brand new creation myth and some other cool gods we can worship. This is the gate of those. We don't really know. I couldn't find a solid answer, but it's interesting. But then the word Babel in Hebrew comes to mean confusion and disunity, which is still true in modern English. You know, have you ever talked to somebody like, what are you still babbling on about? I mean, anybody? Okay, just me, I guess. What are you babbling on about? When babies are making their cute little noises, we call it, oh, babble. They're babbling. It's so cute, right? This word is still true. With this in mind, with Nimrod kind of pictured as the head of Babel. He's leading this thing as a king. He's proud in the face of God. I don't need you, God. Let's dive into the actual text itself now. This is Genesis 11, 1 through 9. I'm going to read the first 4 verses, talk about it a little bit, then come back and read the last 5 verses. At one time, all the people of the world spoke the same language and used the same words. As the people migrated to the east, they found a plain in the land of Babylonia and settled there. They began saying to each other, let's make bricks and harden them with fire. In this region, bricks were used instead of stone, and tar was used for mortar. Then they said, come, let's build a great city for ourselves with a tower that reaches into the sky. This will make us famous and keep us from being scattered all over the world. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to show you a map. And the first thing when we look at this map, I want us to all laugh, one, at the fantastic ark and little rainbow. It's like this beautiful little serene moment. Oh, look, it's Noah and his family on the ark. They're so happy. Never mind the millions and millions of people who are dead beneath the surface. It's a happy moment. And flood zone, I don't know if the creator of this map is indicating that it was like a localized thing. I don't know what that's about. Ignore that. Here's what I love about this map. You see Mount Ararat up there in eastern Turkey. That's where the Bible tells us Noah's Ark landed. And I don't know if it's the real Noah's Ark or not, but high up on Mount Ararat, people have found a structure that if it's not the ark, it sure looks awfully arky. And it's really compelling, I think. So go look that up for the archaeological evidence of Noah's Ark. So from there, Noah and his 3 sons and their families are supposed to scatter and fill the earth. And you go down, you see Israel there. That's a great pathway to Africa. Through Turkey, you can go up in Europe. And then here you have the Middle East and the Far East then. And you can see the Fertile Crescent, which we really have come to know from archaeological proof that this is the cradle of civilization right here, because you have the Tigris and the Euphrates, and it's very fertile right there. So it's a great place to settle and farm. And you see, it's Iraq. I love that it has the modern overlays of the countries with Iran, Iraq, and Baghdad. We're about 50 miles south of Babylon. That's the plain of Shinar, which in our text was called Babylon. That's where they built the Tower of Babel. We can also see Ur down there, which archaeological evidence shows us that Ur is the oldest populated city that we know of. I'm 90% sure that's true. Ur is where Abraham is living in safety and security with his family when God calls him out to travel that long way over to Israel. And I don't want to steal any of Jay's thunder. That's coming in the next week, next 2 weeks, somewhere in there. It's coming soon. Stay tuned. So it's interesting because here in Babel, we've got people who are congregating and staying together, and in Ur, we have Abraham who's going to go out and leave that. So that's kind of where all this is happening. I love being able to just see how it all connects and how the world connects. I hope that's helpful to you. I also want to show you what the Tower of Babel looked like. So we have a ziggurat right here. It was probably about 300 feet tall, which, if you're thinking about 300 feet, it's like Turkey Mountain from the bottom of the river to the top of Turkey Mountain. 300 feet, not by our standards that huge or impressive, but a really impressive, significant structure. And these types of things are all over this area. In fact, I've got a real-life one. This is in Ur, this is still there. That's a real-life ziggurat. So a very imposing, important, prominent structure. That's what they were wanting to build. And I want to show you the sin of Babel was not the tower, it was pride. Here, God had told them, like 100 years ago, so this is Noah's great-grandson, to scatter, to fill the earth, right? Here are these people who say, we want to stay together. We want the safety and security of living with our relatives, with our friends, because we'll be safe. We'll be more secure, right? And they ignore God's command. They don't trust and obey what God has asked them to do. And thankfully, this only happens in Genesis. It never happens today. No one ever says, I'm going to put my own interest and my own safety and security before trusting and obeying God. I'm laying this on pretty thick. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Okay, fantastic. They cluster together in the city, focused on safety and security. They have a common language. Again, 100 years post-flood, everyone's speaking the same thing. Just because there's harmony and unity doesn't mean your focus is good, okay? That's important for us to think about. So they use their unity to do something against God. Again, with this dude Nimrod, who's a great hunter before the Lord, leading them all the way. The geography itself is almost mocking their attempt to do this because there's no stone in that region. The text said so. Stone would have been a much better building material than the bricks they had to use. So the geography of where they want to set up shop is itself against them. But the tower becomes the monument of their sin and their disobedience, led by this dude Nimrod. And I don't want to get too far into this either, but if you want to make a note and go read this later, Isaiah chapter 14 is an oracle against the king of Babylon. It's also where we get some of our history of what we come to know as the devil, the Satan, the accuser of God's people. And in one verse it says, in verse 14, I will climb to the highest heavens and be like the Most High. This is Nimrod, what he's doing. He's trying to climb to the heavens. He wants to be like God. He wants to be this powerful ruler, and that's also what Satan did, and that's why he could not any longer be in the presence of God. And it said right there in what we read, they didn't want to be scattered all over. They knew the command of God. They said, we don't want to do that. This is, again, 100 years post-flood. Let's pick up the account again in verse 5. But the Lord came down to look at the city and the tower the people were building. Look, he said, the people are united, and they all speak the same language. After this, nothing they set out to do will be impossible for them. Come, let's go down and confuse the people with different languages. Then they won't be able to understand each other. In that way, the Lord scattered them all over the world, and they stopped building the city. That is why the city was called Babel, because that is where the Lord confused the people with different languages. In this way, he scattered them all over the world. Again, their common language led them to a purpose that was sinful, that was against God. So God says, let us come down. And again, much like in the creation account, he's using plural pronouns about himself. I don't think this in itself proves the mystery of the Trinity that we hold as true, but it leaves room for it. It's so cool that all the way back in Genesis, we already have some of this mystery around exactly who and what God is forming. And so this is such a common story, and I think we miss how stunning of a development this is. Imagine you're living and working with people, and you're communicating clearly, and you have this joint purpose, right, no matter how bad it may be. And then all of a sudden, one day, snap, you and I can't understand each other. Imagine how frustrating that would be. We've been able to talk with ease, and now we don't understand a word each other's saying. It would be frustrating. We'd get angry with one another. What are you doing? Why are you messing with me, bro? Like, it might come to a fight, and it eventually comes to scatter the people, which is what God told them to do anyway. And God uses this to make that exact thing happen. Make no mistake, my friends, the purposes of God always march forward. We can choose to join in with him and growing his kingdom on earth and being a part of his purposes, or he will do his thing without us and even perhaps use us in ways that we wouldn't want to be used to grow his kingdom on this earth. No matter what, the purpose of the Lord moves forward. And of course, this is how it gets the name Babel, means confusion. And this is a really foundational account for the people of Israel. This is how they would have come to understand that there were so many different nations, people groups, languages, and also this is like their origin story of their super enemy, Babylon. So this is a really important account for the children of Israel. Let me pause this for just a second. How many of y'all like Legos? Legos, puzzles, anything like that? Okay, my wife Miranda loves them. they stress me out. Can I just be real with you? They stress me out. See, when I was a kid, back in the 1900s, and we were happy, and we had a big old bin of Legos, and you just built stuff, right? Now, we still have that. My kids have a big old bin of generic Legos, okay? But there are so many specialized sets these days. Y'all know what I'm talking about? You go to Walmart or Toys R Us, and that even doesn't even exist anymore. You go somewhere that sells stuff, they have like 3 aisles of specialty Lego sets, and they're expensive, y'all. Some of these are getting up toward $1,000 even. So Audrey, my oldest right here, I remember one time we got her it was like a Rapunzel's carriage Lego set, okay? And these specialty Lego sets come with these instruction manuals. And you can look at them online too, but it's a step by step by step by step. Well, she was asking me to help her, and I'm trying to be a good dad and go along with it, even though I'm stressed out inside because this is just, it's too much for me, trying to get all these things in the right place. We had made some mistakes at some point. So then we're going back through the instructions, trying to figure out where we went wrong. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Y'all have any of this frustration with me? Okay. You have to go back and figure out where you went wrong before you can go back forward. It's like, the joke is always you buy a piece of furniture from IKEA or something like that, and it comes in like 10,000 pieces, and it takes you 4 days to put together, but we saved $20, you know? And so, being men, we never just launch out and try to set this thing up without consulting the instructions. That doesn't happen. But when it does, and we realize we've made a mistake, we have to go back and figure out where we went wrong before we can go and make it right. It's the same way with our life with God. God has given us instructions, not because he's this angry, wrathful, vengeful God who's just ticked off at everyone. I'm waiting for you to mess up so I can smite you. He's given us the pathway to life with him. He's given us the pathway to the life of the greatest peace and joy and happiness. And I think we're going to actually dig into a series this fall to try to chase that kind of a life, to simplify some of the confusion we have. The instructions are for our best good, both on this earth and for eternity. But so often, we're like the people of Babel. We're like Nimrod, and we want to go and do our own thing. Sure, God, that sounds good, but I really know what I need. I know what I need financially. I know what I need to have success and security and comfort. We know how we can do marriage. We know how we can raise kids. We know how we can climb the corporate ladder, and I want to make it to this point before this age, and then I'll be happy. I want to have this many, likes and followers and things on social media. We know the things that we're chasing in this world. We do all these things, even though we have the instructions with the path to life. And we don't go back until we realize there's a problem. We don't go back until we realize the marriage is on its wit's end. It's on the last leg. Or that there's strife between siblings. Where there's closeness, there's now distance and discord. We wait until there's the catastrophe at work, and then we go back and we say, God, what's going on? What's wrong? We wait until our health crumbles before we realize how much we need God and we need his way. I want to bring us now full circle because pride separates, but God brings together. Pride separates, God brings together. After Jesus' death and resurrection, he tells the disciples to wait in Jerusalem. He says, wait here until you receive the Holy Spirit. And I want you to watch what happens when that happens. Acts chapter 2, 1 through 12. On the day of Pentecost, all the believers were meeting together in one place. Suddenly there was a sound from heaven like the roaring of a mighty windstorm, and it filled the house where they were sitting. Then what looked like flames or tongues of fire appeared and settled on each of them. And everyone present was filled with the Holy Spirit and began speaking in other languages as the Holy Spirit gave them this ability. At that time there were devout Jews from every nation living in Jerusalem. When they heard the loud noise, everyone came running, and they were bewildered to hear their own languages being spoken by the believers. They were completely amazed. How can this be, they exclaimed. These people are all from Galilee, and yet we hear them speaking in our own native languages. Here we are, Parthians, Medes, Elamites, people from Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, the province of Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, Egypt, and the areas of Libya around Cyrene, visitors from Rome. Sandy, I'm sorry, that was way too fast. Sorry, Clark. Both Jews and converts to Judaism, Cretans and Arabs. And we all hear these people speaking in our own languages about the wonderful things God has done. They stood there amazed and perplexed. What can this mean? They asked each other. Pride separates, God brings together. Here you have all of these people from so many different nations, people groups, languages, gathered in Jerusalem for this festival. All of a sudden, the Holy Spirit comes and enables the disciples of Jesus to speak languages that are known to the people around them, but they themselves did not know already. In the apostolic period, this early church period, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about tongues. I don't want us to get into the rabbit trail of like the private prayer language. We can have that conversation. I'm certainly open to that conversation. But for our purposes at this point, it's just important that we know that this is God bringing together, not creating any confusion, but bringing together. And these people all of a sudden are speaking these languages they hadn't known, proclaiming the glory of God, the mystery of God, the good news of Jesus, so that everyone could know it, so that God could bring people together. The Holy Spirit brings a restored unity for the purpose of the kingdom. But make no mistake, my friends, the enemy still wants to try to sneak pride back in. He wants to sneak pride back into our marriages. He wants to sneak pride into our friendships, into our work. He wants to sneak pride in here, into his church. And he's good at it. He's really good at getting us to focus on what we want. Here's what I'm not getting. This marriage, we're struggling. I'm not getting what I want, what I need. Not, God, how can I love and serve this person that you've brought into my life? I don't know how to raise my kids. But God, I believe you can help me. I don't know what's best, but I believe your Holy Spirit wants to bring together. So if I lean on Holy Spirit, he'll do that. God, I don't know how to live out my Christian faith in the workplace or in school or in all the sports and other activities and things we have going on. I don't know how to do that. If I approach those things with what I'm getting out of it, I miss a chance to minister, to love people, to serve people, to show them who God is, who Jesus is. And man, churches can so easily devolve into a thing where we're so focused on ourselves and what we want to be doing and what I'm not getting out of it. And I don't like it when we sing those songs. I don't like it when we do it this way, or I want this position or this title, or I want to be doing this and instead I'm doing that thing. And then we start talking about other people, which really doesn't reveal anything about other people. It reveals the brokenness in us. Am I right? And I'm talking to myself here, people. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm saying this to myself just as much as anyone. Hear my heart. But I know where we're supposed to be going. I know what the church is supposed to look like, and I know what it can look like. And I think we have a really good church, people. But I promise you that if we as a church could decide that as individuals we're going to pursue Jesus above all else in our own lives and in our own families, and then we bring that spirit together, that we're going to pursue Jesus and the things of God, and then I'm going to focus more on loving and serving the people around me, not what I'm getting out of it, but loving and serving the people that we're here in family with and community with, and welcoming and loving the people who come to us. Church, we'll destroy the gates of hell. Do you believe that? We will destroy the gates of hell if we as a body decide that's who we're going to be about. We are going to be people of Jesus, not people of self. The world is watching. It's waiting. It thinks we're hypocrites. It thinks we're all these super judgy jerks, right? My kid's in here, so I didn't want to say a bad word. Let's show them something different. Let's show them who we are. And then that gives us room to speak into what we believe and why we're this way. And it's so interesting because the things like gossip, the things like the backbiting, the infighting, the squabbles in a marriage or in a relationship or the issues at work, they're symptoms. The tower was a symptom. It wasn't the root cause. The root cause was pride. And the root cause of all of this stuff we're talking about is pride. And my favorite theologian, hands down, is C.S. Lewis. And if you've not read Mere Christianity, I don't think a better book has been written about the basics of Christianity. Now, it's dense. It's heavy. You're going to feel smart after you've read this one. I have to read like a paragraph and then go back and figure out what I just read. But he's brilliant. He doesn't waste words, and he has this to say about pride. I couldn't say this any better, so I'm quoting him. There's one vice of which no man in the world is free, which everyone in the world loathes when he sees it in someone else, and of which hardly any people except Christians ever imagine that they are guilty themselves. There is no fault which makes a man more unpopular, and no fault which we are more unconscious of in ourselves. The vice I'm talking of is pride or self-conceit, and the virtue opposite in Christian morals is called humility. According to Christian teachers, the essential vice, the utmost evil is pride. Unchastity, anger, greed, drunkenness, and all that are mere flea bites in comparison. It was through pride that the devil became the devil. Pride leads to every other vice. It is the complete anti-God state of mind. Isn't that true? When we meet someone who's really proud, really arrogant, it's such a turnoff to us, isn't it? And I think it's such a turnoff because it's something we're all struggling with ourselves. And it's so interesting the way he breaks this down, that all of the other things that we get caught up on as calling sin, they're flea bites in comparison. If the enemy can make me really proud of how well I'm performing legally, the enemy has won my soul. It's that place of humility, recognizing our great need for God, that brings us to this place of peace and life. So let's go back to the instructions. Let's be humble enough to realize that we need the instructions, the pathway that leads us to life. Don't wait until things come crashing down. Don't wait until the marriage is on its last leg. Don't wait until there's already strain between siblings, between parents and children. Don't wait until things get destroyed at work or whatever it might be. Don't wait until we see issues in the church. God can do incredible things there too. Don't get me wrong. God can do miracles when things seem far gone. Let's go back there now, though. Let's go back to the instructions. Humble ourselves and submit to them. That's where we're going to see life and joy. That's where we're going to see the kingdom advance. Pride separates, God brings together. Let's be brought together by the power of the Holy Spirit and shake the foundations of hell in this community. It's like the great poet of our day has said, I searched the world till my head hurt, just to find out your way is better. Anybody? Forrest Frank? Anybody? Uh-oh. If you haven't heard of him, he's relentlessly positive, very Christ-focused. I'm a fan. It's like we sang earlier, though. Jesus, your way is better. Let's come to that place where we realize that today, and let's live that way.
Once again, thank you for stopping by today. We'd love for you to be a part of our family at one of our services. You can find out all of our information at simplechurchtulsa.com, and we'd love to pray for you any way we can, so please message us, and we hope you have a great week.